channel, it's me, CheesyPaninie. Relogic has been kind enough to give me access to a sneak peek of the update before it drops, and I've been tasked with demonstrating several ways to use Rubblemaker for your builds. First and foremost, you can use the Rubblemaker to bring life to your nature builds. There's a variety of different forest and jungle plants that are now at your disposal, and you can place them on any block or platform that you want, not just on grass. You can even place them on planters. Some of these plants created by Rubblemaker can even sway with the wind when there's no wall behind it, just like the naturally generated ones. Aside from these, you might find it fun to play around with these wooden twigs and shrubs because if you place walls behind it along with some blocks, you can make custom bushes and plants. I can already tell that a lot of people who love making nature builds would be excited to use this. You can also place rocks that can make your terrain feel more natural. Since most of Terraria's blocks are square-ish, these can break that mold and make the shapes of your mountains, hills, and cliffs and other land formations more interesting. And the best part about this is that most of the items that the Rubblemaker can make are rocks, pebbles, and other rock formations, so there is no shortage of options for this. Of course, rocks and plants are not all that the Rubblemaker can create. You can also use it to give your builds a spooky vibe. From haunted houses to dangerous dungeons, the Rubblemaker can create creepy-looking props with spiderwebs and skeletal remains. Since Halloween is just around the corner, these would definitely put your builds right on theme. Aside from those, you can make your environment feel a little more lived in by showing hints of civilization through these other props that the Rubblemaker can place. We've got tiny props that look like they can be used for traps along with some cages, which would really work well if you're building hunting grounds. There's some broken furniture with cobwebs, which would also work with the previous batch. There's also some camping and mining props along with bags of money and some items for the lizard temples. Now that we've covered the typical uses for these props, let's explore some of its more unconventional uses. Since these new props don't really resemble many of our existing furniture, you can use them to create interesting shapes and silhouettes when you paint them with shadow paint. You can form mysterious figures or props that are behind other objects like this creepy entity hiding behind this palm tree. It's difficult to replicate that head or that hand with other furniture or blocks we currently have. Another way to use these props, which is one of my personal favorites, is by placing them close together in a row or column and making a repeating pattern. It acts as an accent to the build and gives simple designs a little more pizzazz. And since we now have echo coding, you could also hide certain parts of these props to get different patterns. You can also add interesting textures or a randomness to the build by incorporating them in unusual ways, like these bone piles as tree leaves. It may be an odd choice, but since this is the crimson biome after all, it kind of works. I highly recommend using items for things that aren't their intended purpose because you might just discover a combination that would make your build unique. Speaking of using things in odd ways, you can even use these props to complete a part of a build like this swing over here. It works okay as it is, but when you add this Rubblemaker prop, it ends up looking a little more intricate. It now has that cobweb detail which you wouldn't really be able to achieve with cobwebs you can place. You can also crop them by painting echo coding on the parts of the prop you don't like. The sword and the stone can become part of a stand when you hide the stone part, while this lizard temple table could blend well with palladium walls, making it look like it's holding two things together. There's a million ways to play around with these, and I urge you guys to experiment when this update finally drops. Aside from that, you could also use these Rubblemaker props to protect the ground from gravestones. You could always put any type of furniture and hide it with echo paint, but since these items naturally blend with the environment, you won't have to hide them. As long as there are no 2 block spaces, players can die all they want without gravestones getting placed and forming a graveyard. And those are some of the different ways to use the props you can place with the Rubblemaker. Now let's try and see what we could make with all of these uses combined. there you have it. My inspiration for this build is actually the Shinkansen bullet train from Japan, but I wanted to put a little spin on it. I put some kind of lake monster under the bridge, and it just so happens that the forest biome had the best background to pair this with. I want to thank Relogic for trusting me and giving me the opportunity to present these features to you guys, and I'm very excited to see what builders would come up with once the update drops, because I'm telling you, there's a whole lot of cool stuff coming. But that's all for now. I'm just gonna go do my thing, and you guys do your thing, and I'll see you guys later. Take it easy, stay cheesy.